Anyway, I wish I could get some sleep. I feel so just. I've got so much shit on my mind, I'm telling you. I made another Facebook. I have to download Facebook while he's not home, like, so I can get on Facebook. But I made another Facebook, and I've joined some narcissistic abuse groups, and I have a mental health app that I've been going in there and like posting stuff whenever I don't have anybody to talk to, and trying to get people to talk to me because I feel so alone. Because like I tell my partner at work, but she doesn't really know what to say, and she just says you need to get out of there. And while I do need to get out of here. I don't have anywhere to go, and I don't have any money to go anywhere, and I don't feel safe. And I told her that. I said I don't feel safe going anywhere. I've been thinking about talking to my sisters and seeing if maybe, even though he kind of fucked up my relationship with them, he did and he didn't. My mom had something to do with that, because my mom is my mom. But my sister's dad loaned us money to rent the house that we are in. And my boyfriend was supposed to help me pay it back. So I told my sister's dad that once I finally got my income tax, because they were giving me trouble because it was the first time I'd ever filed income tax. I said, as soon as I get my income tax, I will pay you that back, and we'll pay you every week. It might be like $10 a week until we can get better jobs, but we will pay you back. And, my boyfriend agreed to it. And, so when I finally got my income tax, my boyfriend flipped out because before we even moved out from his mom's house, I had told him that when I got my income tax, I would get us a PlayStation. And this was before we decided to move out. This was like 4 months before we decided to move out and get our own place. Because I thought if we got our own place, plus his mom, the people that his mom was renting from were supposed to be selling their place. So we didn't know how long they had to stay there. But anyway, this was months before income tax. And I said that we would get a PlayStation and we could play PlayStation. We'd have a game. And so whenever, and I was like, but, things changed because we borrowed $1,500 from my sister's dad to rent this house. And I promised him I would pay him back. And so finally, after having to make a trip out of state to go to our closest IRS location, during that trip, that was during the trip was where he wrecked into the house and threw all my shit out, and then we had to turn around and go back. Because he fucking raged. But anyway, so when I finally got my income tax, he made me feel like a piece of shit because I was going to give it all to my sister's dad. And I'm like, you remember the deal, right? He's like, what deal? I'm like, I told Daddy that I would give him my income tax to help pay him back. He was like, well, you promised me you would buy me a PlayStation. And I'm like, yeah, but that was before we moved out. And now I'm supposed to pay Daddy back. And he's like, no, you promised me that you would buy me a PlayStation. And so that turned into a huge argument. An argument where I was scared that he was going to hurt me. So I was like, fine, just take me to GameStop. We'll go see how much the PlayStation is, and see if we have the money. So I ended up spending, because I didn't make very much. So I ended up spending my entire income tax on a PlayStation and a game and some controllers and a controller. And so that was the start of not paying my sister's dad back. And then I would save up money. I think I had like $400 saved up because I got a new job where I was making like $5 more an hour than what I was making at the restaurant. But I saved up like $400. Well, then his car tore up, and that was our only means of transportation because I wasn't allowed to have a vehicle. So we were both missing work. So we had to take my $400 and pay to get his car fixed. So then I started over again. Then he got fired and was without a job for a few months. So I was paying the bills all by myself, struggling. And then he ended up coming out there to where I worked. He lasted 28 days before he got fired. So then again, I was stuck paying all the bills by myself. Then he went to another town and worked with his brother and sister-in-law. And he worked out there for a few months before he decided he hated it and wanted a better job. And so he asked them to find him a better job. So then he was driving 2 hours and went to a different shift. And he was driving 2 hours on third shift to a job that only paid $4 more, and all that was going in gas. Then he had to have a car because the vehicle that he was driving was not good. So during this time, I bought the vehicle from his mother because his brother had a baby, and his mother moved in with his brother, so she no longer needed a vehicle. So I bought her car for $200 because she said she didn't need it. She would just figure $200 that'd get her enough money to get started. She was going to be living with them rent-free. She didn't need nothing. Just a little bit of money to get started and have money to put back. Plus, it was super old, and the doors were fucked up and had been wrecked. And she only paid $500 for it. And it had issues. So he was driving it back and forth for 2 hours and said that it wasn't going to be... It wasn't good enough to drive back and forth 2 hours. Well, I could have told you that, buddy. You should have thought about that before you took a job 2 hours away. Why you would take a job 2 hours away, I have no fucking idea. Because you thought $16 an hour was so incredible that it was worth driving 2 hours. But okay. Anyway, you can't tell him anything. So he takes a job 2 hours away. And then he wants to go get another car. Okay, so we go and get him a car. I take money that I had saved up and help him get a car. He takes his check, help him get a car. Well, then, like 3 weeks later, and this is a paid car. You have to pay for it. $300 a month plus full coverage insurance. And this is all coming off my card, because he didn't have one. So it all had to come off my account. So, like 2 weeks later, he slices his hand open. And guess what? Guess who's not clean, even though he was supposed to be? He told me that he hadn't smoked weed in months. Because he was supposed to quit. Well, guess who wasn't clean? He wasn't, and got fired. So then he was without a job for like 6 months, and the whole time I was paying for his car and paying our bills. And I would work all the Saturdays I could. He would make me feel like shit. I can't believe you're working all this overtime. Any 12-hour shifts, as much as I hated them, I would take them. And then he would treat me like shit for it because I worked all the time. But he was without a job for a while. And then finally found a job around here. And then he went through several jobs. He worked with his friend for a little while. Went through some more jobs, but he never kept a job. And then, like, I would make remarks about trying to pay him back, pay my sister's dad back, and he was like, we're not paying him back. Fuck him, we're not paying him back. And I'm like, I want to pay him back. He's like, no, we're not fucking paying him back. It's been too long now. We're not paying him back. So, needless to say, it's been 5 years and I still owe him $1,500. But I've been thinking about that if I really decide that I'm leaving, and I don't know if I am. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Like I said, I've got so much on my mind. But I've thought about Thanksgiving is next week, and our 2-year anniversary. I mean, our 5-year anniversary. Oh, I said 2 years. 5-year anniversary will pretty much be next week. But I thought about messaging my sisters next weekend and explaining to them what I've been going through. I haven't, like I said, the only person I've ever told anything to was my stepdad whenever I had to call him at 3 o'clock in the morning for him to pick me up after a Christmas party. I had to call him back, and it was cold and raining, and I was out walking. I was in the middle of town with 2 dogs, and he had slammed me up against the ground, or shoved me down to the ground, dragged me around the backyard, dragged me out of the house. So I grabbed my dogs, which I had my granny's dog at the time, and then my dog, because my granny had just passed away. So I had my dogs and a little jacket, and it was raining, and I had sandals on, and it was cold, and so I called my stepdad, and I begged him to come get me, because my mom couldn't come get me, because she was with another man, and too fucked up. And so my stepdad come and got me, even though him and my mom was separated at the time and in the process of getting a divorce. They're back together now, I think. I don't know what's going on with them. I ain't talked to my mom in 2 months. But so he's the only person that knows that he's put hands on me besides my partner at work. Him and her are the only people that know. But I thought about telling my sisters what's been going on and explaining to them, and be like, look, I don't want there to be any judgment. I don't want that if you guys ever run into Josh again, I don't want you to put me in a situation where he knows that I've said something, but that I'm at the point to where I'm ready to walk away, but I don't have anywhere to go. I think that if their dad would allow me to come stay with him, because he takes care of my niece. It's an hour away. I can still drive to work. I'd have to get a restraining order because he's already made threats to go to my job, and I have those text messages where he made threats to call up there and cause problems. I'd have to get a restraining order. But I thought about explaining to them what I've been living in and what I've been dealing with. And be like, I don't want any sympathy. I need somewhere that I can go that he won't be able to find me, because he has no idea. We've been to his house, but it's been 5 years ago. I mean, almost 5 years ago. So even if he remotely found out that that's where I was at, he wouldn't know. Not only that, I think that I might be able to convince them to let me leave my car there and let me use their vehicles, because he's got extra, because they got money. But he might actually let me drive his car around for a little while until things blow over. And then I would be distracted, because I would be there with my niece, who I've only seen maybe 10 times in the last 5 years. I would be there with her. If they'd let me bring my dog, I could go somewhere where I would be distracted. I could possibly have another ride. I could get a restraining order. I can go to HR. Maybe they can let me park somewhere else, so I have another way. Like, I could park in the front and go in the front office to come into work. They might be able to figure out a way to make it safe for me. Just till it blows over. But if I leave, I have to have somewhere to go that he can't find me. I know that if I really wanted to, I could probably go back to my mom's house, but that's the first place he's gonna look. And if I leave this time, I'm not coming back. I've already made an email account. I've already made a new Facebook. I've already started packing up stuff. I've already, like I said, I've already been going through things. I need an exit strategy. I need to try to save up money. But I thought about just explaining them. I actually messaged my stepmom, who works for the county courthouse and has worked for the, like, sheriff's department in the town that they live in, which is like 2 towns over, which is another thing. It's a whole another county away. And it's in a whole other county that it's not even the same county he works in. It's a whole nother direction. And it's not so far away that I can't drive. But seeing if maybe they would consider, like, if I just showed up, would they turn me away? I don't know. That's my plan right now. I don't know. It's about time for his lunch, so I better get off here.